Hi, I am Sweta Kaushal, and we are in conversation with veteran National Film Award winning artists Sudhir Mishra and Saurabh Shukla. They're here to talk about Daasdev. So, this will be, I think, the seventh time that a film on Devdas is different
But
takes.
I keep saying this that if it was so, I would have said so. But I mean, I said that anybody who wants to see another version of Devdas should stay very clear of this film because you won't get it. I admit to an influence. I have used the characters of Dev, Paro, and Chandramukhi, and I first when somebody told me to make Devdas, I said, why? Because I had also seen Anurag's version and I really liked it. So I said, in the modern context, he's done it. Why repeat it? Then I got an idea one day that I saw the similarity between Dev and Hamlet. And then Shakespeare started messing with my head. And his many characters came in. And I thought, what if Dev is the heir to a political legacy? What if he's like many of the families where they call the son when they're in trouble, they don't want the power to come out of there. So, I mean, he becomes then addicted to power. In a sense, he's addicted to alcohol, he's addicted to power. Then I thought, what if Paro's father is the political secretary of Dev's father? So they have the same kind of relationship as the earlier, but different. What if the division between Paro and Dev is political? What if the one maneuvering this whole circus of power and its addiction is Chandramukhi Chandni in my film? She's the kind of girl or woman or man whom every politician knows but claims that they don't know. Those that fix political deals between business, politics, power, whatever. So she's a political fixer, a seductress. But I thought she also has the flaw of Chandramukhi, that is being in love with Dev. So I've kept that triangle and then weaved another story. So tells the story of this strange love of Deva Paro in this political atmosphere of the Devdas, right? Of political atmosphere of our time, right? Where people are addicted to power and power is the only motive of politics. And in this daldal of politics, or in this quicksand, in this mess, in this love is not possible in this time of bullshit. But the problem is, and because love and power and its addiction and all this are mutually contradictory. They can't exist in the same space because love, affection, ishq is a better word though, rather than just romantic love. If you're even in ishq with the people, then you can't do power politics. So it's a whole metaphor in that sense that love is not possible in this time bullshit, and it's the story of how these three move towards a different kind of love. Even Chandni's love may not be requited, but it's a kind of love. And if how will it be possible for them to become from Das, which is an addict, a slave to one's to Dev, which is a normal human being? What is a normal human being today as a Dev? Because normalcy is so absent.
Sudhir, your films are often a lot about human frailties.
Yeah.
What
I
is this?
liked I liked the best analysis of my films. Somebody said it is the anatomy of grace, and I like that description. Yeah, because I think that's all there is. We are frail, and we just try to tell poppycock stories about ourselves. Heroism occurs now and then, sometimes, and if we are heroes, sometimes it's good. Some situations we are mostly weak, trying to survive. Majority of human beings, 99.99%, and that is because of our condition and the way we are, and mortality is our fate. And I think it's inhuman, to be frail. And I think these so-called virtues of heroism have led to the major disasters of humankind. This idea of heroism, of machoism, of being brave, of standing by your beliefs. Just because this belief, I may have the wrong beliefs and I'm standing by them. This is idiotic. It is better to say sorry, I apologize. I'm weak, I was wrong. And not kill 20,000 or 2 lakh, 2 crore people because you were wrong. Hitler thought he was, the moron thought he was right. He had beliefs. Everybody believes. So the belief has led to more destruction than anything else. This is a male idea, message, a male, some kind of heroism of when I walk, shops shut, this idea of being strong. Power. Comes from, is the biggest bullshit. I mean, so men should also be depicted in, so the man who's soft is not considered a hero, it's considered a loser. What kind of idiocy is this? So you want what? Men who kind of strut around bashing people up? From bashing people up to rape to power is one more step. So I think this, even popular culture spends these very dangerous myths and the audience buys into them. And that is the danger of popular culture. This idea of what is right. It is perfectly all right to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I was weak. That is heroic, I think. To admit your frailty is heroic. I mean, a lot of people tell me you tell the truth, but what should I also tell? I mean, like I write one article, they say you confront the truth. Well, you should. I was weak. I was frail. Why shouldn't I admit that's the truth?
But not many people really do that.
Yeah, and not therefore, when I, that's why even the women characters I depict are not often, make mistakes, they are ambitious, they sometimes are wrong. So a lot of women say, oh, as if I should every time depict, so I should show this champion feminist. That's an idea, but human beings are not like that. Human beings make mistakes. That's not life. It is. Then I should write an essay and not make a film, a treatise or something of what people should be. But I'm not a moralist. I'm not a God man. I don't have any advice of how to live life. I depict life or I see life and I say this is what it is. And sometimes beauty is possible and people search for that little beauty, vestiges of it somewhere. So my films have a sort of, I don't even believe in today's view, where the word dark is used for a lack of imagination, I think sometimes. I'm dark. If your film doesn't have any moral core, then I'm sorry, I'm not interested. If being human is or being soft is weak and only dark, vicious characters whom you won't call home for dinner, but you'll make films about to go to some film festival, then screw you, man. You're a fucking fraud. As far as I'm concerned.
As a filmmaker, what interests you more? The society and like a larger look at how things work, or the individual?
Both. In the larger framework, the world, I mean, the individual, the social framework, then the whole, then he's mortal, no? And then there's a universe. So, I mean, there is a human, so I mean, there is the human, if you make films only about some present social condition, then I don't think those films will last. I don't think Hazaron is a film only about Naxalism. I think it's about the vestiges of beauty that are left when youth fades. If it lasts, it's because of that. And that's the film I liked. That's why I called it Hazaron Khwaishein Aisi. That's why Ghalib came in. Nobody asked me a question, how come this film about the emergency is called Hazaron Khwaishein Aisi, and what has Ghalib got to do with the emergency? Because that's why Ghalib is Ghalib, because, he can tell you about the human condition in his own specific time. So he's at that time, but he's also of all time. No, I mean, that's the job of a filmmaker. Which is also the job of a filmmaker is to engross and not to bore.
And by boring, you mean you were talking about dark characters?
No, by bore, I mean, I don't mind dark characters as long as the film itself has a moral core. I don't know, characters can be anything. There are all sorts of people. Like I think Anurag's films have a moral core. I think Vishal's films have a moral core. So I mean, they're very strongly moral. I think Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction has a very strong moral core. I'm talking about the fake mimics, right? So I mean, I think, for example, Pulp Fiction is the most moralistic film of all time. I think almost
Why would you say that?
because look at the end of the film. Look at the whole Samuel Jackson. How the film ends, and it's a long monologue, right? That's the core of the film. And I don't think many people who mimic Tarantino understand that because I think his films are against violence. He shows it, but it's the terribleness of it. You don't want to do that kind of violence. The gun is available and, he'll shoot and he'll kill. Somebody's brains will splatter all over the car. And you'll spend the rest of the evening trying to clean up the fucking mess. Right? That's the whole arbitrariness of violence. So I mean, and I like to enjoy. I enjoy making. So this film, like for example, has a larger epic structure. So I've tried to also use the form. I like an Indian '60s film form, because it became a bit Shakespearean in my head. So I wanted to lift it away from just the. I'm talking about the attempt, So I mean, so it becomes like an epic kind of scale where people play out these. So it's a bit, in a sense, melodrama in a sense. So that's the form. Like Hazaro is the opposite of a melodrama almost. Like Chameli is a fairy tale. So there's like a drama, a kind of conspiracy drama with a love story.
So, as someone who talks about truth, who makes films that
I
are
don't know
really
about
true
truth.
to his own self,
Yeah.
at least
No.
that's how you would treat it, I guess.
Yeah, huh.
How would you say how difficult or easy it is to, survive and thrive as an artist who does stuff like that and not really, talk about just what's
I don't give any special status to artists, and I don't give any special status to myself. I think if most majority of Indians suffer.
They do, but unlike people like artists, people like you, who are at the center of the limelight. So, whatever you do, whatever you say on a particular subject, say political development or any other crime that happens or any incident that happens, your reaction would be taken in a different way than how a normal person would react. So, in that context, how easy or difficult you think it is right now for someone like you to not just be true to yourself, but also survive in the sense that you're still, doing your stuff, making films. How easy or difficult
It's
is it?
difficult, but you know what the main challenge is. Of course, it's difficult to get money and difficult to get those films released, right? But my main problem is every time you have to confront your own mediocrity. So the challenge of an artist is to drive himself. How do I reinvent myself? How do I not do how do I not use my familiar tricks? So it's very easy to, for example, for me to stay in the Hazaro realm and make these like love in the time of Babri Masjid. I mean, that could be a formula, love in the time of, let me make a film about a journalist and a kar sevak in those 20 days. That, for example, a lot of people have given me these ideas.
We actually had a film like that.
So a lot of people have given me these ideas to take advantage of. So I mean, I'm just saying that my main problem, of course, it's problematical to get this film released has been a problem to get a film.
It will be almost after 5 years.
So 10 crores to get a film budget to convince all the actors to to be there. You also feel terrible half the time because you're not paying correctly. There's tons of problems when you're making films like this, right? But but I think the main problem is that can I be good enough? Because if I'm good enough for the next film, if my script is good enough, then I'll manage somehow. It'll be difficult, but I'll manage. And there's enough people who stand by you. Not too many, but enough. It's not that it's a totally inhuman world. Somebody will hold your hand. It happens.
Saurabh sir, I think the same goes for you because, yes, you have worked in many more films than Sudhir sir, but you are also someone who's done the kind of work that would go exactly with Sudhir's. So, do you agree with how he takes it, or
Me and Sudhir, we have been,
so you can hold it? This
yeah.
is,
So Sudhir and me, we have known each other for almost 25 years, and we have been in this work relationship from last 25 years. Of course, I agree with him. That's why this whole relation has gone. And yes, I 100% agree with his views, and as he's growing in his views, I'm also growing in my views socially and this thing. And as you said that I have worked in many more films than Sudhir. See, the thing is that you're talking about the actor Saurabh Shukla, and there is filmmaker Sudhir Mishra. So a filmmaker makes one film in a year, whereas an actor can do 4 films in a year. So by that logic, yes, I have done more films, and my part as an actor, I would say, has been that whatever my worldview is, I have chosen the kind of films which speak my voice. So, I mean, it's not my voice exactly, it is the filmmaker's voice, but then you end up going to the filmmaker who is sounding like your voice, and you agree with that socially, morally, intellectually. You agree with that, and then you work in that kind of a film.
so, for Daasdev, what would you say? How different was the experience in the sense of the kind of role that?
So it is different and it is not different. I mean, it's a yes and a no. Different because it's different from the other films which I'm doing, but it's not different from any other layered work which you do. So it's a very layered script. It's written with great nuances, and understanding of politics. So these understanding of politics is of an insider, and so there are great strokes of that world apart from a human drama and human emotions, which all of us end up doing because we tell human stories, but then you make it alive with great nuances of the world which you have seen, felt, and lived. So Sudhir comes from that background, and he has a great understanding of that thing. So I mean, it really takes us actors into a new world, which we have not experienced firsthand. But it is like you have a director who has the first-hand experience, so it's almost like living that world in those many days.
What exactly happens when two veterans like you come together and work? What is the learning experience that happens for both of you?
I mean, I'll only say one sentence that we don't think ourselves as veterans or,
But you
but
are.
I mean, you just have, because the excitement of it is that you think of every film as a first film. If you start thinking like that,
That, yeah.
if you start thinking of, see, I mean, I know Saurabh for 25 years, right? We started working in before as writer, co-writers in one film before Israt, and then in Israt. So I mean, I don't see the difference. I mean, of course, he's more
As in,
secure, and of course, I'm more senior. Uh, of course, I'm slightly, whatever, older. But I think the excitement of doing something remains, and you have to approach everything like a fresh thing.
When I say veteran, I'm sorry, interrupting you. So when I said veteran, I meant you see him as someone who has a lot of experience, and you see him as someone who's a lot of experience, and the kind of learning uh, graph that
Yeah,
happens.
so I
then.
mean, what Sudhir is
Obviously,
saying.
not considering yourself.
No, 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 no.
But
And we
the
mean, we understand what you're saying, and it's just a pun we're using. See, the thing is that I think that the whole trick lies in, and it's not a trick, so that you can practice it and play it. It just